So today I thought I would chat to you about my process of making videos. It's like having a fireside chat, really. So this video is a big overview of the whole process of making a video, but if you're only just interested in one particular thing like set or props or costume, down below is the timestamps for those, so you'll be able to head straight to it. The first thing I start with is an idea for the video, and sometimes it's a workshop or a commission that I've got. Sometimes it's about something that I'm doing, and sometimes it's an idea I want to try out, like the hummus experiment, but often it's about a story I've uncovered or have discovered and I really want to share with the world. So it starts with the idea, and then if I need to, I'll do some research trying to back this story up. So I used to work in film and television in the set and prop department, and I've done a lot of work in theatre in set props and costume. So these things I really think about when I'm doing a video. To differentiate set and props. Props are anything that the actor touches or interacts with, and set is everything else behind them and beside them, anything that they don't touch or interact with. Set. So set is a big one. I think people don't think that set is important, but it really is. Set is really important because it frames everything you do, really. So when I was doing Craftivism 101, which was the series of the history of creative rebellion, I sort of wanted to be influenced by Crash Course, the literature one that John did. So that's a white set, a desk and a laptop, and then some bookshelves. And so I had the desk as well because I was sort of presenting the information, and I had my laptop next to me, which wasn't just about set dressing, but actually it had my script on it as well. I had my shelves in the background. I rearranged them so that all my creative resistance and craftivism books were in shot because they used to be outside of shot, to give a kind of authority to the video, to say, look, I've got some books about it. And when I was planning this shot, like, I haven't done anything to this shot except this puppet here. When I did this shot last time, she was hanging a shelf above, which meant that it was just the bottom half of her body and her legs hanging in shot, which looked kind of morbid. And again, I worried that people would sit there going, why do they have a hanging, like, doll or something up there? So I've brought it down somewhat so you can see that it's a puppet, and you go, okay, cool, it's a puppet, and then you just move on, right? So you're not spending all your time trying to figure out what's behind me. Sometimes I'm not so worried about set, like if I'm on location doing a workshop or whatever, then it's just what it is. But I do try and curate what's around me when I can. In the kitchen shots, like when I was doing the spider cake, that was just my kitchen as is. But when I was doing the hummus experiment, I really wanted to underline how simple the recipe was. And when I first set up the shot, I still had the shelf in there because there's a shelf on our bench that has all the stuff that we usually use. And when I looked at the shot, it made it very busy and complicated. I really wanted to enforce that this was a super simple, easy recipe. So I took that shelf out of the shot, and then the bench was all empty except for my 4 ingredients and my blender, and the wall was all empty, and it was nice and clean and calm, and helped reinforce the idea that this was a really simple and easy recipe. Costume. I don't mean by costume that I go out and get crazy Halloween costumes or anything, but costume as in the things I'm wearing today or any of my videos. I try and find things that are visually interesting. I wear a lot of black, but I don't want to just be wearing black t-shirts all the time because it's not very interesting from a viewer point of view. So today it's got some stripes on it, so it's got some visual interest going on. I've got my scarf on. I don't think you can tell what the pattern is, but again, it's got a pattern. If I was wearing just black and black and black, it'd just sort of be a black hole with a head coming out of it, right? When I'm doing videos that the camera is further away, I choose t-shirts with bigger slogans or emblems on them. So like Craftivism 101, each of those t-shirts had a slogan or something in it that you could see from far away. When I'm doing stuff like in the kitchen, that's a much closer shot, so I choose t-shirts with smaller prints all over so that you can see them. My hummus experiment t-shirt, it didn't work so well because although from mid-shot you could see the design on it. When we got to the kitchen, the shot was different because our camera has changed since I last filmed something in the kitchen. And basically all you saw was my shoulders with the black. So I wasn't too happy about that because I wanted to, you know, have something interesting in there. It was a very tight shot, that one. Usually I don't worry about pants so much. Not that I'm not wearing them, but that it doesn't really matter what I'm wearing because you can't see them. But for the unboxing of my book, I was aware that you would see my pants because I was planning to sit cross-legged. So I chose a pair of jeans that had some stitching details on the knees so that you'd be able to see that and there would be, you know, just something of interest. Today I am wearing jeans with holes in them, but this is not because I wanted some visual interest, but basically because these are the ones I was wearing. Again, you can hardly see it, so I probably wouldn't worry about choosing the right pants for this video. Props! Props, props, props! I don't use a lot of props in my videos. I choose my mugs from time to time, like I choose my t-shirts. So I chose this cup today because it's nice and bright and red and it contrasts with the stuff I'm wearing. It's also nice and big, and it doesn't have a design on it, so people aren't just sitting there squinting going, what the hell is that design, instead of, you know, listening to me. So when I was doing the spider cake video, I was aware that I would be putting the cake on a plate, and I didn't want just a plain white plate. So I had a plate with a red pattern around the very edge, just to give it, again, a bit more visual interest. But it wasn't hugely colourful or patterned or anything to take away from the main focus, which was the spider cake. Spider cake, spider cake! When I was doing the King's Ginger video, I chose some little cut glass shot glasses, again because there was a bit of a pattern to them, and because they were clear you would see the King's Ginger as you poured it in, and I chose a nice jar to put it in to take it out to shot. For the King's Ginger you had to put it in a cupboard in the dark for a day to let it steep. So I really liked this shot because I thought it was pretty clever that I put the camera in the cupboard, and so you've got the point of view of the bottle. Script. I used to script my videos out, especially with the Craftivism 101 things, because I had things that I wanted to hit. And I didn't do it in bullet points, I actually did it like line by line by line. And then I would read the line off the computer and then try and say it back to the camera, which took a really long time to get right. So that's just a few examples of historic creative resistance around the world. I can do this. So that's just a... Can I do this? So that's just a few examples of historic creative resistance. Then I started putting it in bullet point because I think I'm more engaging when I'm just saying stuff rather than desperately trying to remember lines to repeat to the camera. So now I do bullet points or just do it totally off the cuff. So today I've got a little bullet point list of things that I want to tell you. As an aside, the world doesn't even agree what year it is. In most of the world, it's 2019, and we don't have hover cars, and we don't have... What's the other cool thing we don't have? We don't have hover cars, and we don't have teleporters, but we have a world of knowledge in our pocket, so, you know, swings and roundabouts. Lighting. I tend not to do too much in the lighting department. At the moment, I'm just looking at the shot. At the moment, this shot is with the window open. Usually the lounge room light is also on, but the globe broke last night, so it's not. And there's a bit of light coming in from the other bit of the house over there. And this is fine. If it was a really cloudy day, I might set up, we have basically a desk lamp over there that we use for reading, and I might set that up as well, but at the moment this shot is fine. In the kitchen, I open the blind as far as I can, which is behind the camera, and I set up a desk light in the cupboard reflecting off the wall, and I pull out the range hood as well to make the light go so that it illuminates the dark corner behind me, otherwise it's just kind of gloom back there. One of the tricks I learnt when I was doing my photography degree is about bouncing light. So if I took the desk light that's over there and shone it straight at me, it would cast really strong shadows like the window is at the moment, see on my face. So what you do is you bounce the light. So you point the light at the ceiling or at one of the walls, and it shines onto the wall, and then the sort of secondary light bounces back, and that diffuses it better and gives you a much more diffused light rather than a really bright light that casts harsh shadows. So I'm lucky enough that I have a fairly professional camera and on-camera mic, but I have also used my phone in the past. Like at VidCon, I just take my phone because this is sort of big and lumpy and I can't be bothered carting it around, and my phone does fine. The colours aren't as pretty as in the big camera, but I'm happy to weigh that up against the ease of carrying the phone around in my pocket rather than this. And the cool thing, hang on one second, I'll show my cool thing. Ta-da! So this is one of my favourite pieces of kit. It's a tiny little tripod which also can bend and hold on to things, so you can dangle it from things, and you can put your phone in this bit and then it holds that as it records. And I've used this at VidCon and for the above shots when I was making the spider cake. So I clipped it into the cupboard doors, and so it pointed down and watched what I was doing on the bench. It's nice, it's simple, it's easy, it fits in a pocket, so you don't have to cart around a huge tripod and a huge camera. The other piece of kit I have is a selfie stick, and I used that with the street art tour, which was really useful because it's so long I could get up close to artworks. I found that very wibbly, so the longer your selfie stick is, your hand shakes a certain amount and it gets more shaky by the time it gets to your phone. So I don't think I've used it since then, but now that I have the little tripod-y thing, I use that. That's really the only piece of equipment I take when I'm filming on my phone, and sometimes not even that. The other piece of equipment is I have a little lapel mic, but I don't tend to use that for monster things, mainly because this boom mic is fine for usually where I am, and again, it's about ease. It's about just being able to set up a camera and pressing record and not having to fiddle around with lapel mics and do all the nonsense. So for a professional thing, I do that, but for these, no. I'm going to have some coffee. It's getting cold because I'm doing more talking than drinking. I like to try and make the videos as simple as possible. The more you have to organise and the more that you have to do, the harder the hurdle is to get over and actually do it. So I try and make them as easy as possible. There are cars on a Sunday in my quiet street. 'Tis not a quiet street.